Hi, my name is Wendy Murphy. I'm the Chief Assistant Rice County Attorney, and I'm going to talk about the blueprint questions and how important they are for a successful prosecution. I am going to be talking to you today about a prosecutor's perspective. I understand that when you guys are responding to the scene, you are responding as patrol officers to an emergent situation. Please understand that I want your safety and the victim's safety to be your utmost concern during these calls. The blueprint questions are really important and really helpful because of I would say that the blueprint questions are almost a door to give you another avenue of getting really important information. As we've talked about before, when you guys are trying to get a report and you want the chronological who, what, where, when, why questions, the trauma that the victim has experienced can really impact a victim's ability to answer the questions in the way and the method and the chronology that you want. What's great about the blueprint questions is they don't feel like they're investigatory questions, and they're very open-ended, which allows a victim's mind to kind of release a little bit and give you some insight. You will have an opportunity to maybe hear about prior assaultive behavior. These questions may give you an opportunity to see if there's any other victims or witnesses around, because very often kids are in the home when this happens. And even though the kids are not assaulted, just being exposed to the domestic violence from a prosecution standpoint, we view them as victims as well. The other thing that this will help you get is there may be a piece of information that is not forefront in the victim's brain when they're first talking to you about this. And when they do relax a little bit or think about other questions, it may bring up something that absolutely happened in this specific incident as well. So the first question that we are going to talk about is do you think he or she will seriously injure or kill you or your children? So a lot of times we get, yes, that's a very common answer. And while that's very shocking, and some of us have heard it so many times, it's not as shocking, but that follow-up question is the one that's so important. Why? Why do you think that, or what makes you think they won't kill you? Often we have people that are saying, yes, I think they'll kill me, and very often they're going to say me, but not the kids. And that why is really important because maybe they forgot to tell you that the person has access to a firearm. Maybe they forgot to tell you that the person had a gun and last week they said that they would kill them. Maybe the person has a knife or normally uses a knife or a bat or any sort of dangerous weapon. And that could be the thing that triggers our victim to tell you more about what happened. And it also gives the victim an opportunity to think about other times that they have been assaulted by this perpetrator. So it's really important, and that why or why not is a great follow-up question. The next one is how frequently and seriously does he, she intimidate, threaten, or assault you? Such a great question because so often when we in the criminal system think of assaults, we think of a really concrete injury or a really concrete action, a strike, a punch, a kick. And we forget that there's that whole other gamut of assaults that are based just on fear. So when we talk about threaten, coerce, harass you, that is when you are going to get that kind of background into that information, and maybe something that didn't seem quite as dramatic when they first said it to you, like, yeah, I had sex with him before he hit me in the face. Now, when you talk about that, when you ask that second follow-up question, it may be, well, they threatened to kill me, but as long as I have sex with them, they don't. Or they threaten to kill me or take my phone, but when I give them money or I put the food on the table or I go take the garbage out, then they stop. So that whole gamut of what are the other things that happens in the relationship that's not just physical is great information for the prosecutor, and again allows you to build that relationship with the victim and get a more overall whole picture of the relationship. Then is it changing? Is it getting better or is it getting worse? Again, wonderful question because we can see statistically as victims are trying to separate, are trying to leave, that is the most dangerous time for a victim. So if the victim is indicating to you that maybe they've been leaving or been thinking about leaving or called a family member or called a friend, we will see a correlation in the increase in violence that happens. So if they say it's getting worse, hey, how is it getting worse? Maybe there's new controlled substance issues. Maybe there's some triggering trauma from the defendant's side that is increasing the pressure on the defendant. So again, another great question, and those answers are great answers for a prosecutor. The last one is describe the time you were most frightened or injured by him or her. Another great question, because when you guys respond, you're responding to that moment in time. Recently, we had an officer who was going through these questions and everything seemed kind of routine, very normal. Yes, I think he'd kill me because he said he would kill me. Yes, he takes my phone, he takes my car, he takes my money. And then when we got to this question, the victim said, well, this wasn't the scariest time. The scariest time was actually last week when he punched me in the face and broke my nose. And when I tried to leave the house, he and his brother both dragged me back downstairs. And kudos to that officer who did that, because he finished the investigation that he was doing at that time and then stopped and started a whole new investigation on the prior broken nose, which was a much higher level felony offense. It also included false imprisonment, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to get false imprisonment on the brother who also dragged the victim back down the stairs. So that isn't something that the victim, was focusing on when the police officer got there, because at that moment in time, she was focusing on the reason for the call. Because of these blueprint questions, she was then able to not only shed light on prior abuse that was going on, but gave us a really specific other charge that we could do. So that just, I think, is the best example of why these blueprint questions are so important. One of the things that I really think is important for officers too, and again, I get this too when I'm looking at complaints, we want that who, what, why, when, and where. And sometimes when we ask those questions, because we're so fixated on getting that answer, we don't really listen to what the victim is saying. So sometimes I think it's really good advice to, when you ask a question, ask some open-ended questions. What happened tonight? And don't get fixated on a time or a date or a location right away. Let the victim tell you what he or she wants to tell you. So just keep reminding yourself, I need to listen. Let the victim talk. And then if you can put in your reports the things that you're seeing, whenever you guys put in that the victim was crying, seemed upset, had a hard time talking, that's really important for prosecutors, because that helps us recognize this person is having a traumatic response. And it's very normal for us to listen to victims talk about what happened to them, and they are bouncing from fact to fact or detail to detail. And the more you just let them talk and the more you can write down, that is just, it's great for us as prosecutors. It not only helps us get a really good probable cause statement for that complaint, but if we do have to go to trial, we are able to use something that is called history of the relationship evidence. And it's one of the few times that we can bring in prior acts of the defendant to a jury and let them see not only what the defendant did to the victim in this moment in time, but all the other times that the defendant has done this for a victim. So if we get that information right away on the front end, it just makes the prosecution a whole lot easier. Please feel free to call myself or Brian or anybody at the Rice County Attorney's Office if you have any questions about the Blueprint protocol or the Blueprint lethality and safety questions. Thank you.